This is Olivia Osgood, and you are listening to the How to Quit Working Show. I'm glad that my mommy's an entrepreneur so that we get to spend lots of time together and she gets to homeschool me.
This is the How to Quit Working Show. Jeff Steinman believes entrepreneurship is the only true path to freedom. That's why he created the How to Quit Working Show, where you'll hear stories, insights, and inspiration from lifestyle fanatics who left their soul-sucking 9-to-5 job forever. Now, here's your host, author, entrepreneur, and ultimate lifestyle fanatic, Jeff Steinman.
Hello and welcome to the How to Quit Working program. This is Heather Osgood, your host of the Friday episode of the How to Quit Working Show. I hope that you're having a wonderful day. I am just enjoying summer. I absolutely love summer. I love everything that comes along with summer. I love traveling. I love camping. I love spending time in the sun and in the water. And I just had a blast this last weekend on a trip that I took with my family. And I hope that you're doing the same thing. And if you're not, it is time for you to have a little bit of fun. This is summer and it is time to enjoy yourself a bit. So I want you to think about that today. What can you do to have a good time? And before we get started with the program, I want to make sure that part of the fun of summer for you is joining the How to Quit Working Circle. You can join the How to Quit Working Circle by going to howtoquitworking.com/circle. And there you will find lots of information about how to get your business started, how to quit your job and do what you would like to do in your life. Have a little bit of time and flexibility in your schedule to enjoy the lake, the ocean, the beach, whatever it is that you can enjoy this summer. So again, go to howtoquitworking.com/circle to join the community. You can access our Facebook group, which is a really wonderful place to be supported by like-minded individuals. We also have a free video training series that you can sign up for, as well as periodic live trainings that you will be alerted to. So I hope that you will take a minute to do that. Today, I'm going to talk a little bit about financing your business. So oftentimes, you're right there. You've decided that it is the time for you to quit your job. You want to start a business. You want to do something great, and you kind of just aren't sure exactly what you're going to do, maybe how you're going to do it. And if that's something that's been bouncing around in your mind, if you haven't already listened to the podcast about really deciding what concept is going to be best for you, I would encourage you to take a listen to that. And then once you get to your concept and you know that this is the path that you want to take, next you have to decide how you're going to pay for this business. How are you actually going to get it started? So today I want to talk through some different options and just give you really some things to think about on this journey to creating a different kind of lifestyle for yourself. So first and foremost, when you're thinking about creating a business, I want you to consider your personal income. Now, I'm not sure what the exact percentage is, but a good portion of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. And even if you're listening to this podcast living outside the US, I am guessing that you could be one of those people who are living paycheck to paycheck. It is a very rampant phenomenon in our society and in, kind of this world that we live in. And so really, when you're thinking about starting a business, having that paycheck disappear is really a big, important part of the equation. So I want you to first really examine your personal pay and how making changes to that pay is going to affect you and your family, those around you. And when I talk about personal pay, I want you to think about what your life would be like if you didn't get your job paycheck anymore. So you've got this job, you've got, either great pay, bad pay, somewhere in between, and all of a sudden you don't have that money anymore. What does your life look like? Can you pay your mortgage? Can you pay your rent? Can you, get the food that you want to get? And most importantly, can you handle a lifestyle adjustment? So if you are accustomed to making, let's say $60,000 a year or maybe $100,000 a year, and then all of a sudden you go to making $30,000 a year, how is that going to affect your life? How is that going to affect your ability to function day in and day out? And I want you to really consider this, because when you're in this kind of mode where you're feeling like, I am so ready to quit my job, I'm so ready to move on, I love the idea of starting a business, I know that if I worked for myself, I could be happier, I could be more productive, I could impact lives around me for the positive, all of these wonderful things are going through your mind, and it sounds so appealing, it sounds so exciting, and then what happens is you get 3 months, 6 months, a year into this journey, and all of a sudden you're like, I am working my tail off. I work constantly trying to create this business, and I am getting nothing in return. I'm not getting the financial compensation that I'm accustomed to getting. And when you have that, that factor playing in, it is extremely easy to get discouraged, to feel kind of downtrodden, to become very quickly uninspired with what you're doing. And that is all of the worst place that you can be in life. Now you're not working at a job and you don't have your pay. You're working, all of these hours trying to get this business up and running. You don't have any money. And a lot of times too, even if maybe you aren't working as hard, if you have a lot of flexibility, if you don't have the income to balance it out, it can be challenging. I know, many times I've talked to entrepreneurs who say, I have all the time and flexibility in my life that I could ever want now, but I don't have any of the money that I might like to actually enjoy that time and flexibility. So if your personal pay is kind of in the limbo, you're going to really have a lot of stress in your life. And oftentimes when you start a business, the business doesn't have the income that it needs to survive on its own, much less the income that it would need to pay you. So you have to really, really think about that. And when you're laying out kind of your plan of action for getting this business up and started, how is it actually going to pay you? And how much do you think that it's going to be able to pay you? Extremely important things to think about. I would highly recommend you saving somewhere between 6 and 12 months worth of your current income to get your business up and running. Now, the hope would be that at all times you would have somewhere between 6 months and, a year's worth of living expenses just in an emergency fund, so that you have kind of that stability in life, period. But if you're not one of those people and you don't have that money set aside, I would really encourage you to think about just buckling down and trying your hardest to get at least 6 months worth of living expense money in a savings account that you would not touch at all until you absolutely need to have that. Having that cushion and having that security there is going to really give you the ability to express yourself fully in your business creation. You're not going to have to make hard choices because you aren't personally getting a paycheck. I have had too many of those times myself, working for myself, being in business, where all of a sudden it's like, I paid everybody else, but who got the short end of the stick? The business owner. I'm the only one in this whole company who isn't getting paid. I'm the one that's working the hardest, and that feels horrible. So you have to really, really make sure that your pay is an important part of the business. The other thing to really consider is your pay putting too large a strain on the company? I've experienced that as well, where the company seems to be doing well. You are accustomed to making a certain amount of money, so you take that much money from the business, and then all of a sudden, 6 months, a year down the road, the business can't really sustain the amount of money that you have been taking from it, and it's really making the company suffer, which is also a lose-lose situation, because even though you might be comfortable at home and getting your, financial obligations met, the business is slowly drowning, and that isn't going to be a good long-term solution. So you have to really, really, really analyze that and come up with, just a really good plan for your personal pay. The other thing to consider with your personal pay is that when you own a business, your pay is all over the board. Now, if you're a commission salesperson, you might be accustomed to having a variable paycheck, but most people out there are very accustomed to, on the 1st and the 15th, I'm going to get a check for $2,000, and I know that that's going to happen. And all of a sudden, when you own your business, you might get a check one month for $5,000 and it feels great. And the next month, you might get a check for $500. So really looking at variability in your income is also something to consider. And how will that affect you? How will that affect your family if your income is all over the board and is really highly variable? So I want you to really, just kind of consider that and digest what it would be like to have that be, just something to contend with on a regular basis as a business owner. Next, I want you to think about the startup cost of your business. I don't believe that most people really analyze what it's going to cost them to start a business. It will cost you money to start a business. And we'll talk about bootstrapping in just a few minutes here. But even if you were trying to spend very little to nothing on your business, it is going to cost you money. I know that there are a gazillion, videos and podcasts and blog posts and things out there who say you can start a business with zero money, but I am telling you it is very difficult to start a business with no money. It is doable. There are lots of people out there who start their businesses with no money, but it's not easy. Now, the trade show production company that I sold last year that I had for nearly 10 years, we did start that company with $2,000, and $2,000 is not a lot of money. But it still was $2,000. And if you don't have $2,000 to start your business with, it can be an issue. And I was able to start that business with $2,000 because of the structure of the company. My sales were me going out to people and saying, hey, do you want to buy a booth space in this great event that I'm putting on? And, oh yeah, you do. Okay, you're going to give me a deposit. So it was very easy for me to raise capital from my customer base. And so as you're examining your startup costs, it's important to look at that. How can you finance this startup? And for us, it was very easy to look at the startup capital came from our customers, and that could work very well for you also. And so the startup capital doesn't necessarily have to come in the form of you personally having saved up $100,000. It doesn't necessarily have to come from an investor of sorts or a bank loan. It can come from that customer base and be really a very viable option. You just have to have a plan for that, because you can't make something out of nothing. You have to invest a little bit. And truthfully, if nothing else, you need to invest in it because it's your business. You've decided to do this. And when you have a financial stake in the game, not only your personal pay, but also, a personal contribution, statistically, you're going to pay more attention to it. You're going to be more invested, and your idea of success and your input into success is going to be a lot higher. So really think about that. And then I want you to examine the costs that are going to be incurred. So, really there are two kind of big types of businesses you could start. You could start a brick and mortar type business, or you could start an online business. Now, in brick and mortar, I would put anything from a service-based business to, service-based or product-based, anything where you have an actual physical location. Now, you can have also a home-based business that is not online. So it's possible that maybe either you're doing a multi-level marketing business, or maybe you're providing a service where you do the work at home and you don't need the actual building, but maybe you're not doing it online. So there is some different options, but really the brick and mortar business does come with its list of startup expenses. And then you have an online business, and there are certain expenses that are going to go with that as well. So let's first examine what it's like to start a brick and mortar business. And the reason I want to start there is because it's the cornerstone of America. Small business, really in commerce anywhere across the world, having that brick and mortar business is where businesses have started out. Whether it's a dry cleaner, a donut shop, a restaurant, a hair cutting business, whatever kind of business it is that you're starting, a furniture store, if you have a brick and mortar business, that's kind of, those are kind of the cornerstones of commerce in the U.S. Obviously, it's moving online very quickly. But if you're thinking about starting a brick and mortar business, which can be a lot of fun, your expenses are going to be a lot higher. And the reason your expenses are higher is because you have to get this building. And in most cases, you're not going to lease a building that is perfectly ready for you to move into tomorrow. You're going to have to do build out of some sort. You're going to have to buy a sign, which signs are incredibly expensive, believe it or not. But there's all these different expenses, and there's lots of lists you could find online, I'm sure, if you were looking for a list of different expenses to consider when opening a business. So I'm not going to go into all that detail at this moment, but when you're starting that brick and mortar business, the expenses are really, really high. It's not typically a very low investment unless you're just going to have an office space, and that office space is perfect and all you have to do is move your desk in, maybe get some internet set up, a phone system set up, and you're good to go. But those expenses do exist even with an office space. So think about that and think about what the true cost is going to be. My recommendation, if you're thinking about starting a brick and mortar business, is to create your budget and then add about 25% to that cost, because just the whole process of the build out of getting your store or your shop where you want it to be is a very expensive task, even if it's something that you're going to do yourself. Next, with a brick and mortar business, you're going to have to think about advertising, marketing. How are people actually going to find out that you opened this business and that you exist? So having a budget for startup costs with marketing and advertising is really, really important. So really consider that. And then just, think through all of the different facets. What kind of insurance are you going to need to get? What kind of contracts might you need to get started? And do you need an attorney to put those together? How much is it going to cost you to get utilities set up? How much is it going to cost for you to get internet connection and phones? And if you're going to do phones and you need a phone system, how much is that phone system going to cost? So really just thinking about all of the angles and all of the expenses that you can incur. Now, as you're going through these expenses, it's also really important for you to look at how could you create something where it's not, it's not something that that you're really going to need. Could you cut it? If you don't need the $10,000 phone system, could you swing with the $2,000 phone system? And what I've seen happen a lot is people open businesses and they think, well, I have to have this. Like I have to have this really nice phone system, or I have to have the top of the line sign. I have to have the best carpeting or the best office furniture. I have to buy, tons and tons of product. And it is really important for you to look at starting with as little as you possibly can. We recently read The Lean Startup, and in that he talks a lot about, really coming up with your minimal viable product. And it's that way with an online business, and it's that way with a brick and mortar business as well. What can you do to make your business as successful as you possibly can without totally breaking the bank? Obviously, you're going to want to present well. You want people to walk into your business and be excited about the product or service that you're providing. You want them to be excited about the level of professionalism that you're conveying. And so that is important. And I'm not saying that you should cheap out on everything, but you really need to look at the expenses that you're making and really think about the impact of the money that you're spending. So that would be, just some of the expenses to think about with a startup business in the brick and mortar kind of form. Now, if we're looking at an online based business, obviously your expenses are going to be totally different. There are, of course, a gazillion different types of businesses that you could start if you're starting an online business as well, but there still is an investment. Now, a lot of people I talk to say, well, I just want to start a blog, or I just want to start a WordPress site, or, I just want to do something that's, super easy and free. And those are options out there. Of course, there are options out there. My husband and I started an e-commerce site using BigCommerce, which is really a terrific site that helps you create a platform for selling merchandise. It's very, very comprehensive, great in many, many ways, but there's still a cost that's associated with that. And so if you don't have that money set aside, it's going to be an issue for you. So as you're examining your online business, think about, first and foremost, how are people going to find out about your website? So if you were to imagine that you were walking through a city, you would come across a business in a few different ways. The first way you might encounter a business is simply to walk past the business. Now, all of us have had those times when we've walked past a business and paid zero attention to the business that's there. So it's entirely possible as you're walking through the city, you might walk past a business and not even know that it's there or care that it's there. But you may. So it's possible as you're walking through the city, you see a business, the business looks interesting, you stop, you maybe purchase something. So that's one way, that business is getting recognized. The next way is through maybe word of mouth. Maybe a friend or a relative said, hey, you really need to go check out this place. It's awesome. I love it. You're going to love it too. And you go and you check it out. So that's one way that you could find out about it. Another way that you could find out about it would be through marketing and advertising. Marketing and advertising is a great way to learn about businesses, and it's how many of us do. A fourth way that you could learn about that business is possibly you are in need of the service or product that they're selling. You get online, you say, hey, I need a pair of cowboy boots. Where can I get a pair of cowboy boots in this city? You find a place, you go, you buy them, you like it. So those are kind of the typical ways that you would think about finding a traditional business. Now, let's take that analogy and let's compare that to what it would be like to find an online business. So instead of walking through a city, let's imagine that you're walking through the internet. But instead of there being thousands of businesses within this city, there are millions, possibly trillions of businesses within the internet. How are people going to find out about you? I cannot tell you how many times I've worked with businesses where they say that they have websites. I Google their website and it doesn't even come up. Their site is optimized so poorly that when I do a search, I don't even find it. And it's very possible for you to start a blog, a website, all these different and YouTube channels, all these different options online, and have not a soul ever find you. So it's important as you're thinking about starting this website, this online business, how are people going to know about you? How are they going to find your product or service? Now, we could take it and we could use those same analogies. Walking by, are they going to find it when they're just, surfing the internet? Are they just going to come across your site? Possible. Probably not likely, but possible. Just like you walk past businesses all the time and don't give them a second glance, you can walk right past a website or not even know it exists and never really think about it. Next, you could be looking specifically for a product or service. You're going online, you're Googling it, your site's optimized well, and you find that product or service. So that's an option. Another thing is a recommendation from a friend. Somebody says, hey, I love this site. They sell the best cowboy boots. Go online and get a pair there. And that can work out well for you as well. And then you've got your marketing and advertising. There's, that strong force. And when you're looking at marketing and advertising online, those are really important things for you to consider. How much are Google AdWords going to cost you? How much are Facebook ads going to cost you? How is your social plan going to play into getting traffic driven to your website? And it's real easy for you to say, oh, social media is free. I could do that, no problem. Let me tell you what, it is a ton of work. So if you haven't ever encountered that social marketing kind of world, think about what that's going to cost you. And it might not cost you dollars and cents, but it's going to cost you a whole lot of time. So what are you being taken away from? So by working on those social media activities, what can you not do because you have to work on social media? So think about that. Search engine optimization is huge. If your site is not optimized properly, no one will find you. Trying to learn search engine optimization, trying to stay on top of that and its constant changes, that in itself can be a full-time job. And if you aren't confident or competent in those activities, it could be a real issue for you. So those are all important pieces of the pie to think about as you're launching an online business. And what are those costs that are associated with that startup? Another thing that I think is so important to really think about is the actual site creation. And part of the reason I want to bring that up is because WordPress has basically helped us all believe that we can create an absolutely stunning website for free. And there are lots of awesome WordPress websites that I'm just blown away by. And so you definitely can create a wonderful free website, but you can also create a really horrible free website. And there are lots of really horrible free websites out there. And you have to know your own limitations. If this isn't an area that you specialize in, if you can't do this, it's not going to work for you. If you're using Shopify or if you're using BigCommerce, those are all platforms where you have the ability to go in there and create your own website. And that is a blessing, and that is also a curse, because a lot of times you don't know how to do it right. You don't know what looks best. You don't know what color scheme is going to work right, or you don't know, just the bigger vision of what it is that you're trying to create, and you can end up with just a mess. I think that it's awesome that people can manipulate and change their own websites, but from personal experience, when you take a great website and you just start adding stuff and adding stuff and adding stuff, it can just become kind of a convoluted mess. And so really think about, do you have the ability to create a really, really awesome website? And it needs to be awesome. It needs to be wonderful for people to actually really take notice of it. Now, granted, there are a gazillion different types of online businesses that you could create, and there are certainly scenarios where having the best and brightest website isn't the most important thing. So each individual business is going to be different. But I just want you to really, really think about, how are you going to become this differentiating factor? How are you going to create something special? And that's what you have to look at. That's what's important for this online world, this online basis. So really just think about all of those things. Make a list of all of the different options and things that you need to consider, and really, really think about, what are the true costs of starting a website or an online business. The other thing to consider is that if you want to do it yourself, it might not look as good in the end as you'd like it to, and it will probably take you a whole lot longer. It's entirely possible that you could work an extra month or an extra 2 months at your job, save enough money to hire somebody to create an awesome product for you, an awesome website that is really going to communicate clearly the caliber of your value proposition as an organization. And that could be very, very well worth the investment of a couple more weeks at work. So really, really think about that. Startup costs are really important, and there are startup costs associated with every business. Even if you're going to do an MLM, a multi-level marketing business, you still have to buy in. You still have to have an initial investment. So really, really think about that. And think about the power of the initial investment and what it's doing for you, the commitment that it's helping you make personally. Next, it's really, really important to think about creating a solid budget projection. And what I mean by that is, you're going to want to create a list of all of the expenses that you're going to have for the startup. So what is the true number of what I need to spend? Now, I have encountered over and over working with my clients that this can be an area that brings up a lot of fear in people, or a lot of unknowns. And what I hear on a regular basis is, well, I don't know. I don't know what that's going to cost me. I don't know how to do that. I don't know where I should look, or I'm not sure how much I'm going to sell, or I'm not sure how to price my product. And those are all really important things to think about. I want you to really embrace the idea that you have the ability to create a budget for your business. If you want to start a business, you need to have the ability to create a budget for your business. And what I mean by a budget is, these are all of the expenses that I'm going to be incurring, and this is the income that I'm going to be making. Now, as you're creating that first financial projection, your income is a total shot in the dark. You really have absolutely no idea how much income you're actually going to make, but you have to start somewhere. If you haven't had an opportunity to listen to my podcast about pricing your products, that's a great one. So if you're feeling like you're not sure what you would want to charge, please take a listen to that. But you have to start somewhere. So whether it's, I think I can get 1 customer in my first month, I think I can get 3 customers in my third month, I think I can get 300 customers by my 6th month, whatever number that is, you have to start somewhere. And you have to say, what would happen if I got 1 customer? Would I be bankrupt within 2 weeks because I only got 1 customer? What would happen if I got 10 customers? What would happen if I got 12 customers? And this is just a process of sitting down and saying, okay, this is my average, price point for my product, and this is how many customers I think I'm going to get, and then this is how much income I would be bringing in, or how many sales I would be making within that time period. And then you have to look at, what are your expenses, and are those expenses going to be covered by the amount of money that you're bringing in? Now, typically, I would say in probably 100% of the cases, the income that you bring in your first month, probably within your first quarter, and possibly even within your first 6 months of business, is not going to cover your expenses. So that's an important consideration to look at as well. You're going to have your initial startup costs, which could be the build out of your building, or the creation of your site, or the photographer you're going to hire to take pictures of you. Those could all be startup costs that you're going to incur. And so that first month, or even maybe pre-start, you're going to have to eat those startup expenses. But then in subsequent months, you're going to have to eat the expenses that the income is not covering. So all of a sudden, now you've got a monthly bill for the hosting fee. Now you've got, a phone line that you need up. Did you decide that you wanted a 1-800 number? You're paying for that. Do you have a PO box? Are you paying for that? What kind of, other fees might be incurred because you're just in business. So you have to look at that. And what I want you to do is I want you to get really comfortable with the numbers, so that as you're going down this path, as you're creating this journey, you really feel like you kind of understand what you're getting yourself into. It's not something you're just diving in blindly and saying, I really hope this works. I really hope that, things pan out the way I want them to, because they may and they may not, you have no idea. But you also, when you set those income projections, you're committing to yourself that you're going to make those numbers work. So I know that I have to sell 10 people this month, or else I'm not going to be able to cover our expenses. I know I need to sell 10 people this month, or I'm not going to be able to pay myself. You come up with a really clear picture of how the money is moving and functioning within your business. And that's such an important piece of the pie, because we all know that if the money piece isn't functioning correctly, the business isn't going to work for you. So that's why it's so important to get a plan in place and to really, really commit to that plan. Now, it is entirely possible that your business is going to take off like wildfire. That could happen. Your business could just be an instant success, and it does happen. And when that happens, you can very quickly go in and modify your income projections, modify your budget to reflect these new numbers. But it's also important for you to consider, what happens if it doesn't take off like wildfire? What happens if I don't get the sales in that I need? And how am I going to push myself through this process until I get over the hump? There is a reason why most businesses go out of business within the first year, and it's because they don't have a good plan financially of how they're actually going to make the business work. This is such an important piece. And again, not to pick on any of my clients out there, but oftentimes, the people I work with, I have found they are most resistant to creating budgets. They are most resistant to really examining their expenses and examining their income and looking at the difference and how it's going to really make their company function. So you have to get really, really clear on that. It is for sure going to be wrong. You're for sure going to have expenses on there that you didn't expect. You're for sure not going to meet the exact income projection that you thought you would, but you want it to be as close as it can be. And in those first, certainly within the first year of being in business, you should be in your budget with at least once a week. You should be looking at, where am I at with my expenses? Where am I at with my income projections? And is this actually on course? Am I headed the right direction? So important things to think about. I want to talk a little bit about bootstrapping now. I think bootstrapping is this kind of, big buzzword that we all hear, and it sounds so fancy and it sounds so awesome that I am, the way I look at it is I'm going to bootstrap my business because I just have so much to bring to the table, and I just believe so much in myself that I can make this work, that I don't need any money to get it started. I just know I can do it. And oftentimes that's partnered by, I just don't have any money. I'd love to invest $100,000 in a business or $10,000 in a business, but I just don't have it. And so consequently, I'm going to bootstrap my way through this process. It is entirely possible to bootstrap your way through a business, and I don't want to discourage you from doing that. If you're a person who believes wholeheartedly in your ability to actually, create a business from nothing, that is phenomenal. That's wonderful. And I think in many cases, people would say starting a trade show production company with $2,000 is really kind of the equivalent of bootstrapping a business. It is certainly doable, and I feel like I've come pretty close to doing it a couple of times now. But, I also want you to really consider the impact that trying to bootstrap a business is going to have on you, your family, and the business. Now, bootstrapping is going to be difficult on you because there's not enough money there for you to pay yourself any sort of a wage. So any of the money coming into the business is going to be very tempting for you to just take because you need the money most likely to live on. So that can be an issue. It can be an issue for your family because maybe you're not providing the income that your family needs from you to function at the level it's accustomed to functioning at. Like we talked about earlier, that can be a challenge with personal pay. The other thing that I think most people don't really consider is the impact that bootstrapping is having on their business. And it's having an impact because you're not investing in the proper areas to actually create the type of business that you need. And that can be a huge issue. It's entirely possible that you could struggle through trying to bootstrap for a year or 2 years or 6 years or 10 years, and you're never really having, just the foundation that you need and kind of the oomph that you need provided by money to get you to the next level of operation as a business. And so it can really be detrimental to your company. The other thing, like I said, is when you're bootstrapping, if you're sucking that business dry and taking every penny you can from the business doesn't have a chance to say, well, I know I got a great, logo designed on Fiverr, but wouldn't it be awesome if I got a professionally designed logo that really communicated who I was? Or wouldn't it be great if I actually had the website that people wanted to patronize because when they went there, they loved it? Or wouldn't it be great if, my brick and mortar business was actually all updated and looked really modern and cutting edge, so when people came in, they were excited and impressed about what I'm doing? Or maybe the products that you're investing in are a higher caliber of a product. They're a better quality because you have the money you need to buy the products that you want. So those are all just different pieces of the pie that you're going to come in contact with or have to, deal with if you're just trying to eke by every month and every little penny that you have. So really, really consider what are the benefits and what are the detriments of trying to bootstrap your business. Next, I want you to think about, and finally, I want you to think about, if you have decided that you don't want to bootstrap your business, that you would like to invest whatever it takes into creating this company, how can you find money? It is entirely possible for people to find money. And I think that most people are kind of resistant to the idea of getting money because it feels like a really big, daunting task. So they say, I really want to start a business. This sounds like a great idea. I have no idea how I would finance it. I have no idea how I would get the money to actually start the business. And there are a couple of really important things for you to consider. And the very, very first one I want you to consider is getting the money isn't as hard as you think it will be. And when you put up these mental blocks to, I just can't get financing, you're not going to get the financing because in your mind, you're making it a bigger, harder type of thing than it really is. So consider that. And first of all, adjust your thinking, adjust your internal programming, and realize that you, along with thousands of other people, get money all the time to start very, very viable businesses. Now, if you're looking at starting a business and you have no idea where you would go for financing, first and foremost, I would recommend that you go to your local bank and you try to get an SBA loan. Now, obviously, SBA loans are, U.S.-centered loans. Small Business Administration secures and backs that loan. So basically, the local bank has very, very little, if no risk, in making that loan to you because that loan is backed. I believe it's like 80% of that loan is backed by the SBA, the Small Business Administration. So it is, entirely possible for you to get an SBA loan. Now, if you're outside the United States in, the UK or in Australia, I am sure that there are lots of different ways that you can get funding through the government to start a business. I'm not as versed on those, but there are opportunities out there, so you just need to take a look. What's really nice about trying to get an SBA loan is that you're going to be working with someone who can help guide and direct you. You're going to be working with somebody who says, hey, you need a really good business plan if you want to get a loan from us. And you're going to have to put together a really good business plan. That is definitely step number one. You're going to have your projections and your budget and your expenses in order. But they will help guide you and direct you through the process. They'll say, you know what, I don't think this business plan is going to stand up. You need to work on it some more. Or I don't think these income projections are going to work. You need to retool these. So you're going to have a lot of feedback from a loan officer who's going to help guide you and direct you through the process. Now, you might not get the SBA loan on the first try. You might have to go to a variety of different banks. Networking and getting to know your local banker is very, very advisable and a great way to get in with someone who can help you tremendously with what you're trying to accomplish. But SBA loans are just a great, great place to start, and I really believe that they are overlooked. My husband and I got an SBA loan to start our hair cutting business. We actually got 2 SBA loans because we spent the first one and needed more capital, and so we got a second, which was awesome. But it's really, really kind of a cool process to go through because they make you work so hard on the foundational elements of your business. And I believe that those foundational elements are really overlooked by most people. The business plan is really important, having a very detailed vision for what you're creating, how you're creating it, who's going to buy from you, what problem are you solving, like understanding all of that, having that vision and having it down on paper is so, so valuable. So first and foremost, having a really good business plan is important. And then your income projections are huge as well. Now, typically with an SBA loan, they are going to want that loan secured by something. It depends on how much money you're going to want to get, but oftentimes they do want it secured. So you might have to, get a second or third lien on your home if you own your home, but having your house back your business is something that people do every day. And it might sound a little bit scary, but if you have a lot of confidence in your business, that isn't as scary because you know that it's going to succeed. And oftentimes, if not every time, you have to have some sort of a down payment. I believe it's like 20%. So again, they want to see that you have some skin in the game. They want to know that you're actually contributing to the business, and then they're going to be more likely to give you more money. Now, so SBA loans are an option. You could also just go for a traditional loan. So you could go take out a personal loan at the bank, and depending on how much money you need, it might be entirely possible for you just to go take out a $10,000 loan or a $5,000 loan. Those things are very doable. So just getting a personal loan is certainly a possibility. And then, the other things are, of course, there's all the Kickstarter programs online. I haven't personally ever been involved with one of those. I know that there is an opportunity for you to raise a lot of money, but there also is, we're getting to kind of a penetration level with those. They're not as new and cutting edge. And so I think you really do have to provide something that's fairly innovative and exciting for people to really want to dig in and do something like that. And then the other types of money you can get are simply from investors. There are people out there, and certainly that's a whole nother podcast to go into, but there are venture capitalists and angel investors who are looking for great businesses that they want to invest their money in. Shark Tank is Shark Tank because people are looking for money. Those guys are willing to give it. And, there are outlets within your community, I am sure, and ways that you could connect with people who are actively looking to invest invest in new business concepts and new business ideas. If you are looking for an investor, I would start first with the Chamber of Commerce. Go to the Chamber of Commerce, talk to the chamber president, say, hey, I want to start this business. Can you point me in a direction of an investor? I'm looking to get funding for my company, and see what they say, be active in your community and see what you can find. We have an Economic Vitality corporation in our area that's sole job is to help people get small businesses off the ground. So there are resources that are out there. You just have to do some looking, and there is money to be found. And it's not an easy process, but it's certainly out there. And, when you're thinking about starting this business, it's not going to be a cakewalk. It's not going to be super simple. And I wish that I could be one of those people who got on my podcast or, got on the video and said, you can do this. Tomorrow you'll be a billionaire. I'm sure you've got it in you. But the reality is that starting a business is a lot of hard work. It's a lot of pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, stretching yourself to your, kind of breaking point and then going further. It's getting you out of where you're at. And it's totally a paradigm shift. It's taking you from where you were as just a regular old employee where you had somebody else day in and day out who was telling you what to do and what you were worth, to a place where you're creating your own worth, you're creating your own ideas, you're having an impact on society in a totally, totally different way. And if that is you and you're ready for this, then take the leap. It's not going to get easier in a month. It's not going to get easier in 6 months or a year or 10 years. You're only going to have regret. You're only ever going to think, I wish that I would have started that yesterday. I wish I would have started that tomorrow. One of my favorite quotes is, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time to plant a tree is now. And that is just the total truth. It is best to get started on your project and on your journey today. Now, as you're listening to all of this, if you are just feeling totally overwhelmed, please don't feel alone. There are lots and lots of people who are feeling overwhelmed by all of the information I've just provided you. But I want you to know that we are here to help navigate you through this process. The reason that I am even here talking to you right now is because I am so excited and I am so passionate about business and about creating these magnificent beings that are called businesses, that I want to help you through this process. I want you to be inspired and to see all of the possibilities. There are so many possibilities out there, and there are also lots of things that you got to get done to get to the place where you want to be successful. And it's going to take hard work. It's going to take persistence. You're going to have ups. You're going to have lows. You're going to have those days where you think, what on earth was I thinking? Why am I trying to start a business? And then you're going to have other days where you realize that this is the best, most interesting and gratifying life journey and experience that you have ever embarked on. And if you want somebody to help you through the process, if you need somebody that is going to be your accountability partner, that's going to give you the tactics, the techniques, the ideas, and the inspiration to do what you know you need to do, please give me a call. I would love to talk to you. I would love to coach you. I would love to take you from, I don't know what I'm doing, to a place of success. I know that each and every one of you can do it. And if you're in the trenches right now and you're feeling like you're not sure where to turn, please give me a call. You can reach out. We've got a 1-800 number on the website. We also, you also can email me. My email is heather@howtoquitworking.com, and I would love to hear from you. If you have a question, you can also post it in our Facebook group, and we will answer you almost immediately. I hope that this has been valuable, and I hope that you can really, really just embrace the importance of the numbers in your business. What are the actual dollars and cents? They are such huge, huge drivers in everything that you are going to be doing. So make sure that you've got a plan, and then you've got to work that plan. I'm looking forward to talking to you next week. Until then, take care.
Thanks for joining us on the How to Quit Working show. Tune in next time when we'll talk to another amazing person just like you, who is now living the ultimate life of freedom and doing it on their terms. If you want to learn how to quit working and get these episodes delivered directly to you, visit howtoquitworkingshow.com.